Sitting here with Robert Furrow of Calvary Chapel Tucson. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
You spoke about objections to the rapture and dealing with people who might have some insecurities. And
Yep.
I want to ask you a quick question about 2 Timothy 2:24 through 26. In my NLT, it exhorts us to be patient with difficult people.
Yes.
And when we're dealing with people who may hold different views about the rapture, or friends or family members who just believe it's a bunch of baloney and they think we're crazy, practically, how do we be patient with difficult people? What does this look like? So many times we get frustrated because our intentions are good. We want them to believe. We want them to be saved. But it's difficult, especially in this heated time we're in. How practically do we be patient with difficult people when talking about these things that are so passionate to us?
Yeah, and I think that, the passage there talks about being gentle and patient with those that are in opposition. So you've got people who are in opposition to you, and that could be whatever, but being gentle with them. And I don't try to convince anyone. I look for open doors when I'm talking to family members that may be even a little aggressive towards me about Christianity. So I have family members who believe that Christianity is the worst thing that happened to the earth. They said the Dawkins, the new atheist, they talk about how bad Christianity is, and they have that. And when I'm talking with them, I don't try to convince them. I will ask questions sometimes, and that's kind of the way that I handle it. So, I'll say, well, what do you believe then? And what do you believe about God? What do you believe about the afterlife? What do you believe about? Is everybody saved? What happens to Hitler? So I'm trying to find out what they are thinking and talk to them, so I'm interested in what they're saying. And I'm not just asking questions to try to set myself up to be able to share something. I'm genuinely trying to find out what they believe. And then when they say something that doesn't make sense, you can gently come back and say, so, you think Hitler's going to be punished, but other people aren't? So where's the line? So you can start to kind of deal with it in a kind of a gentle way to be able to handle it. When you're talking about doctrine, I just so easily will say, we don't have to agree. We agree to disagree, we don't have to agree. And if they want to push it a little bit more, I'll say, I'd love to hear what you believe. I'll tell you what I believe, but I don't want to convince you because that's not my job. I learned a long time ago, I don't want to convince anybody. I want God to do that, God's word to do that. And it's not my job to convince. Even as a pastor teaching, I'm not trying to convince anybody. I'm just giving them what the word says and letting the word do its work in their lives to bring it about. And I have that attitude when I'm teaching as well. So I'm just not up there trying to get people persuaded to believe what God's word says. I'm just giving the word because the word's alive, so it gets out there and it does it.
And leaving the rest to the Holy Spirit.
And leaving the rest to it. Yeah.
We are devoting 3 days to talk about prophecy. We have these huge banners printed out. For so many of us, it is our hope in these days that seem to be getting darker and darker and darker.
Yes.
It is our hope and the only thing we have to look forward to. Why do we see churches that are shying away or completely not even teaching prophecy? Why?
Yeah. I have the same question to some degree. But when I've talked to pastors that don't do prophecy, don't do revelation, they're usually say something like, it's so confusing. I don't want to confuse my people. They just don't ever broach the topic. They feel insecure about not knowing where the position is because they've never dove into it. They've never taught it, so they want to stay away from it. But you're absolutely right. I mean, we got war in Europe now. We have Israel back in the land. We've got Iran on the verge of getting nuclear weapons. The biggest terrorist state in the world is Iran, and it's getting nuclear weapons. And we are on the brink of Israel, which is so tiny, surrounded by so many haters, and they still have survived. And all of that should make us think, the Bible talked about this stuff. And what comes next is Jesus returning. Jesus said, I'm coming back. And if MacArthur said, I'm coming back to the Philippines, Jesus coming back to this earth is even more of a sure thing.
Right. Yeah. It can be intimidating. And we're taking in so much wisdom. There's so much intellectual stuff here. But I've been really touched in this conference by the personal encouragements that have been shared by what we're going through with our personal lives. In our personal lives, one of the preachers said, if we're serving a God this great and we're studying a God that made all these promises, he can deal with my puny problems. And you touched on this yesterday in the Q&A. Some of the questions you were getting were not like deep intellectual, antichrist, pre-post millennialism, but questions from people who were like hurting. Why is it at times like this, Robert, I feel like, and I feel this at this conference really strongly, like we focus on our own heartfelt grief and what's going on. Why do these times and this talk of prophecy tend to make us kind of look inward and really look at our own personal pain and deal with that?
Yeah, Charles Swindoll, I had a tape from Charles Swindoll when I was a very young pastor. I was 25 years old. And he said in this tape, it was a sermon to young pastors, and he said, preach to the brokenhearted and you will never lack for an audience. And I don't know that I took it to heart when I was younger, but the older that I've gotten, life is a tragedy. And every one of us face them. There's no one who doesn't. When people say, why is this happening to me? Well, it's truly a welcome to the club. Tragedies happen to all of us. And if Jesus holds off, tragedy is going to happen that's going to take our lives. And, Jordan Peterson, who I'm not sure if he's a Christian or not, but he talks about the courage of a mother who raises a child and then releases them to the world and ultimately destruction and bad things that are going to happen to them. And that life is a tragedy that God turns into a triumph when we get to heaven. He does things here, does great things for us here, but we're going to go through those difficulties. And so I think that when you get Q&As, and I do a lot of them, you get questions about, my son is no longer walking with the Lord. My daughter has this disease. I mean, you get these questions, and what do I do? It's just because people are living it. They're going through it. This is part of our lives. The oldest book in the Bible is the book of Job. And Job didn't understand what was happening until God comes on the scene and basically says to him, basically the end of it is God saying to him, were you there when this happened? Were you there when I laid the foundations of the earth? And a bunch of no, 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 no from Job. And God never answers the question that Job has about why has this happened to me? The truth is, worse things do happen to some people for sure, but tragedies happen to us all. And you minister to the brokenhearted, and because I lost my wife almost 10 years ago now, that has given me an open door to be able to minister to people who are in the midst of loss.
And how blessed have we all been by that? And I love listening to you talk about her now. It is so encouraging. Yeah. And I don't tear up anymore. Well, here I am tearing up. I just said that. Okay, so I just want to end with something really short and fun that I've been doing with some of the different teachers and getting some different answers, which I think is fun.
Okay.
I call these rapture lightning round questions that don't really matter, but they're fun to talk about, okay? The trumpet blast. Does everybody hear it or just us?
Just us.
Okay, see, that's some teachers answer differently.
Yep.
All right, and when the rapture happens, what will CNN say happened to us? What will Fox say happened to us?
Okay, I think CNN is going to say that the aliens got us and that maybe that evolution took us out. That evolution came to a point and Christians were holding the world back and evolution took us out. I think that Fox News is going to say that the rapture happened.
Right, I think so too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like we've gotten a little slap on the hand. Stop looking for the Antichrist at this conference. I know, eyes on Jesus, eyes on the skies. But do you think the Antichrist has been born yet? And is he on the scene yet?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you very much. This was fun.